Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's a statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more.
Yeah, we do.
You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep those conversations rolling after the show. So, Pad, where should everybody be going?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. T-Public store link is rocking and rolling. Shout out to everybody who's been picking up merch for this holiday season. Sales we've been seeing come in, so it truly means the absolute world. Social media links. Everything's updated. Everything where you need to get a hold of Pad and myself and the team is right there at your fingertips, so definitely be interacting. We love having these conversations with everybody. Also, the blog section. So if you want to talk reviews, we got you on reviews. A lot of comic stuff coming out, especially with our good friends over at Nerd Initiative, because it's Wednesday, it's New Comic Book Day, and nobody does reviews like Nerd Initiative. So you're going to find some here on ODPH, and I'll take it right to Nerd Initiative. Boom. That's how it works. Speaking of Nerd Initiative, you can also find them at the classified section, where we have other friends of the show, good friends of the show, like 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, and many more. Also, we have a directory where, Pat, how many providers are we on?
831,512.
See, I do not argue with him, folks. He is statistician to the stars for a reason. Who's your source?
Trust me, bro.
Exactly. So wherever you're listening to the ODPH from, make sure to leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm of the show. Gets more people tuning in. We can definitely have more people talking the parlay of topics we talk each and every day here on the ODPH network. Last but certainly not least, we have a fantastic music section, where if you want to get a unique gift for the holiday season, go get some music from Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Shout Out the Robots, Floodlands, all great bands, all great musicians, and definitely a unique thing to get somebody for the holiday season. But more importantly for you, it is an upgrade on your music selections if you go download those fantastic bands and get listening to them over the holiday season. For anything else, it is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. And remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. We said we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more, and there is a lot going on. But the story that kind of we're kicking everything off with came out after last week's show.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a time to really deep dive into it, but we've been definitely excited. It's been one that we've had on our calendars.
It's one we went to a panel in New York for.
Yep, for quite some time. And Pat, what are we going to be talking about?
We were talking about the first official project under the James Gunn, Peter Safran DCU, the reboot, the remaster, the whatever you want to call it. And that is the animated feature, or animated series, I should say, Creature Commandos.
Yes, the long-awaited project coming out from the Safran Gunn era of DC Studios had a lot of buzz behind it. It is a mature readers animated show.
Mm-hmm.
I should say mature readers because I'm so used to saying comics, but a mature audience animated show.
Not for kids.
Definitely not for kids, and it's kind of taking a spin on one of the comics that you've seen throughout the years through DC with Creature Commandos, but they did put a lot of twists into this, so it's a different lineup than one might be used to, borrowing a lot of the themes from the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, which, I mean, obviously James Gunn involved, who you even see him in the credits for the show in an animated form, which, I mean, I don't think is really that much of a spoiler because it's been making rounds online.
Yeah.
You really have a sense of what the show is going to be, and obviously expectations are very high with this. So if you're new to the show, what we would like to do is give a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about. After we get done with that, we give you a countdown. At that point, you have to make a choice. Either you stay through the countdown and you hear spoilers, we deep dive, we hold nothing back. Or you have to pause the episode because you haven't watched it yet and then catch up and then jump right back in the conversation. Because there's a lot to dissect with this show. So that being said, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on the first two episodes of DC Studios' Creature Commandos.
It's good. I enjoyed the first two episodes. It wasn't exactly quite what I expected, but then again, I don't know quite what I was expecting with it. I kind of went into it blind. I knew Viola Davis was returning as Amanda Waller, and then also we were going to have Weasel back from the Suicide Squad. So outside of that, and obviously there's some familiar characters just from pop culture. You know, the bride, I think is what they're calling her in the show, but it's Frankenstein's wife. You know, so I know that character. I know Frankenstein's going to be in it, but past that, I really didn't know too much about, you know, who's going to be in it, what the characters are, what their motivations are, and this and that. You know, and when we went to the panel in New York, they really didn't show much outside of a trailer that was, what would you say, maybe like a minute and a half?
It was a teaser.
Yeah, it was a teaser. So they didn't show an episode. They didn't show a clip. You know, it's this first episode we didn't see until it aired. You know, but I went into it blind, and I enjoyed it. It was a little different. It's something unexpected, and I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, this show had a lot of buzz, like we alluded to, and we did not have a lot to work off of. There's been one trailer they've shown a lot online, and obviously, if you're familiar with the brand, you know that this is a very supernatural team that echoes a lot of the same themes that go on with the Suicide Squad. As Pat alluded to, Viola Davis has reprised her role as Amanda Waller, and is also joined by Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
Who many might remember from being Crossbones in the Captain America series for Marvel Cinematic Universe, but he's playing Rick Flag Sr. So, which we'll get into when we start talking about the show. They do address a few things that, when you hear that name, might ring a bell with you as far as the DC live-action universe. And as they're assembling their team, it is a good mix of familiar faces and voice actors that we all know and really love. Sean Gunn is voicing Weasel, much like he did with the Suicide Squad. And he's also voicing another character known as G.I. Robot. We have Indra Varma, who's voicing the bride, who Pat alluded to as more or less Frankenstein's bride. And we have Alan Tudyk, the legend, playing Dr. Phosphorus, who is a very unique character that has definitely a presence on screen, if you will.
Reminded me, and I have to look up the character's name because I'm blanking on it at the moment. But
Geiger?
No, the villain from Batman Beyond.
Okay.
It reminded me of that guy.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of Geiger from Image Comics and Ghost Machine right now. And David Harbour is playing Eric Frankenstein. So when you have these characters involved with great voice actors, and I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg for them.
Yeah.
You have a lot of bars set very high, and knowing the track record with Gunn, there's a lot to be excited about. I thought for this first 2 episodes, they gave you a good understanding of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
And what they really wanted to do is really merge the worlds that Gunn has established.
Yep.
There's a lot of Suicide Squad elements involved. There's a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy elements involved.
Oh, yeah.
And you can definitely tell it's playing to Gunn's writing strengths. So when you see this unique group on screen, we do have a lot of fun moments going on. And I think it's been solid.
Yeah.
I would not say a home run.
I definitely enjoyed the first episode more than the second.
Right. I'm right there with you. But it's still very early in this season to see what they're doing. It's only 7 episodes for season 1. So we'll have to wait to see. But I think for the initial reaction, it's very worthwhile to take a watch.
Oh, yeah.
But you might want to kind of consider what is going on with it, because it's going to be a very different show than you're used to. I'll just kind of leave it at that because I know we're going to start talking some spoilers. So, Pad, in 3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Like I said, you know, it's something different. It's an interesting first chapter, I guess you could say, for the new DCU with James Gunn and Peter Safran heading the ship, as it were. You know, but for the first episode, great first step forward. You know, the second episode for me personally, kind of a half step forward. You know, it was a little different. You know, and that's kind of the vibe I'm getting of the whole show. It's just different. If you were going in expecting something akin to, you know, either Suicide Squad movie, either the one that came out in, God, whatever year it was.
The David Ayer cut.
The David Ayer version or the James Gunn The Suicide Squad, you know, you might get a little bit of elements from it and from both of those films, but it's not going to be a one-to-one carbon copy of that, you know. But it's good. It's enjoyable, and to see where they're going to go and where this is going to lead is going to be fun to see.
Yeah, I really thought they made a good impression.
Yeah.
Like I say, this was not a home run by any stretch of the imagination. But in dealing with supernatural characters being involved in the same motto and formula as the Suicide Squad, it's not really reinventing the wheel. It's just throwing a different look on it.
It's just taking what worked and putting on a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah. And granted, they play up to the strengths, like I alluded to. Gunn knows how to do teams like this very well. The land of misfit toys, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a really great creative venture because he did take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
And he really went a lot of different directions, including with the lineup of the team.
Yeah.
So to see how it plays out, I thought it was a good foundation. I thought Amanda Waller and Rick Flag were what I was expecting.
Yeah.
From Grillo and Viola Davis. I was, like I say, that's what I expected. Everybody else, I was kind of a little confused with to a degree.
Yeah.
I think Alan Tudyk's character, Dr. Phosphorus, is a very interesting one.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure how to exactly read just yet, but it's Alan Tudyk, and he makes magic happen whenever he's on screen, whether voicing or acting. So I still have got high hopes for this. But I think for where we left off on episode 2, I don't want to say it was a letdown, but it was kind of...
It was a half step forward.
Yeah, it was a half step. I will agree with you about that. Because where we kick things off with is the sorceress Circe, who has been a very familiar DCU character as far as the comic universe goes, is invading the nation of Polkistan. And we do see that this is drawing the attention of one Amanda Waller. So Amanda has been put on restrictions due to the events of the Suicide Squad.
Yep.
So they are tying this together. So to kind of coin the phrase from Kevin Feige and company, it's all connected.
Yeah. This is the official start of the new DCU. and he did say that season 1 of Peacemaker is canon to the DCU.
Yes.
Minus the one scene in the final episode where the DCEU, Justice League showed up. That's not canon because, as he said, this universe's Justice League hasn't even come together yet.
Yeah.
And then he said from there, unless it's explicitly stated on screen, we haven't decided yet.
Mm-hmm. So, like I say, they have a lot of wiggle room to really develop something. Like
which makes sense.
With Polkistan, they are really taking some chances, especially with Circe and her followers, the Sons of Themyscira.
Oh, yeah.
So this brings Amanda Waller back to doing, covert action.
Some real subtle humor with this opening sequence and the TV interview.
Yeah.
Boy.
There's a lot of subtlety if you get our drifts.
Read the social media handles.
Yep.
Boy.
We're just going to kind of leave it at that, which I was surprised.
Got a laugh out of me.
It was a laugh, but still, it was kind of like, oof, we're going this route already? Okay. So they start forming the team with General Rick Flag Sr. Taking the helm. Now, obviously, Rick Flag Jr. was killed in the Suicide Squad.
Yep.
So as far as we know, he is still dead.
Yep.
It's comics. Anything could happen.
This is true.
So Waller is now assigning Flag to go and help the princess of Polkistan fight back against Circe, Princess Lyanna, who is a very interesting character in her own right.
Yeah.
So she is voiced by Maria Bakalova. And they, like I say, her and Grillo have great chemistry on the screen.
Yeah.
Like I say, for the voice acting, I think they do a very good job. But when Waller's putting this team together about saving the princess, she's sending Flag in with a unique group because it's not Task Force X.
Right.
Because the restrictions that have been put on her since the events of Suicide Squad is the government is not co-signing on the villains for hire, so to speak.
Well, and they're not in favor of putting human lives in jeopardy, even if it is villains.
Yes.
It's not a good look PR-wise.
Right. So she has found a loophole with this.
Because it's Amanda Waller. Of course she does.
Well, Amanda Waller is one of the best characters in all of comics.
Oh, agreed.
And if you don't believe me, just read Absolute Power.
Yeah.
This past year. I think that cemented that for anybody that's doubting. So she winds up taking prisoners from Belrave Penitentiary.
Yep.
But they're the supernatural ones, so they're considered not human. So this is where you have the Bride, Dr. Phosphorus, G.I. Robot, Weasel, and Nina Mazurki. Mazurci. Apologize for the name. Who is all mysterious prisoners in there, and they are titled under Task Force M for Monsters. Which this is a unique way to kind of mirror what they do with Creature Commandos, because that's a lot of supernatural
Yeah.
elements involved too.
Yeah.
And like I say, there's like I say, a lot of connections between both.
Right.
So as the team heads over to meet Princess Rostafik, they're kind of trying to get used to the castle.
Yep.
And things are already getting a little interesting.
A little heated, a little hot under the collar, and that's because Princess has got some feelings toward Rick Flag Sr.
Yeah.
And decides to act on those feelings rather quickly.
Yeah, so they're already setting that up, which, I mean, I didn't think was too soon, but it was kind of like, okay.
Hitting the ground running. There's only 7 episodes.
Right, so they're not wasting a lot of time with this.
Well, and now the thing they talked about, because I was really confused to a degree when they were talking about, having to make out with their hands during the recording session.
Yeah.
Because they were all remotely, they weren't in the same studio together, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden that made a lot more sense. And I'm like, okay, got it.
Yeah. They released that trailer online too, before the show, so that's not really a spoiler by any means. But either way, I mean, it was something that as we see these 2 episodes play out, it's like, oh, that makes way more sense now.
Yep.
Also, though, the team is not really a team.
No.
And we have to emphasize this. So Dr. Phosphorus, who is not really the up-and-up doctor.
He's going to sell these guys out by some point by the end of the series.
Oh, yeah, completely.
I'm calling it now. I did not get good vibes off this guy, and I realize most of them are not exactly the most upstanding citizens on the planet. But if you had to line them up in like a pick out the criminal line, yeah, he's the one I'm picking.
Well, they did a good job earlier at the prison about doing a quick bio on every character.
Yeah.
So the bride, like you alluded to, Frankenstein's wife.
Yep.
Phosphorus, who is a chemical reaction, almost like a Burning Man.
Yeah.
Literally. GI Robot is a leftover from World War II.
Yep. Weasel's Weasel.
Weasel is Weasel.
He survived the last Task Force X mission.
Yeah. And Nina is an aquatic character that we don't really know why she's locked up.
Yep.
And as of right now, she's considered like the good character.
Yep.
Of the group.
The moral center, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so it's an interesting position for her. But Phosphorus tries sneaking into Flag's room because there's one item that he wants to get. Because Amanda Waller is known for one thing, Pad. What is that?
That is, don't screw over the mission and don't screw over who's in charge, because she has, in certain instances, implanted explosives in the base of these villains' skulls and is not afraid to hit the button and detonate them. And in this case, we saw an example of this towards the beginning of the episode when they were first meeting the quote-unquote heroes or members of this task force, and they went charging at Rick and Amanda Waller, and she hit the button and they all got electrocuted and they all fell to the floor unconscious. So what does Phosphorus want? Well, he wants the detonation device.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not leaving this in your hands.
So they start fighting all through the castle.
Yep.
And this is actually a great scene. Like, I am not mad about this because what I liked seeing is Flag is punching Phosphorus.
Yep.
He's burning his hands while he's doing it.
Yep.
And Phosphorus, is, like I say, they don't shy away from his powers and how
Right.
Flag is just a human. So as they're going back and forth, it's a very realistic fight in that aspect, with Flag wind up getting the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely does help in his favor. So Phosphorus has to, obey for now. But like you alluded to, I think he's going to pull off something shady before it's all said and done.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody on this team has to, because we have to remember they're all criminals. They're not upstanding citizens, if you will, maybe with the exception of Nina, who is trying to be a good teammate.
Yeah.
Because we saw there was a little action with her and GI Robot.
Yeah.
Because obviously he is programmed to kill.
Yeah.
And he's getting very, very itchy to kill.
Got an itchy trigger finger.
I mean, granted, he was born
World War II.
Well, he's born. Yeah, like I say, he was born to kill Nazis, and he can't kill any right now.
Yeah, the program is a little old. He sees everybody. He asks if everyone is a former Nazi.
Yeah. So he's trying to remain calm, but he's getting very, very anxious to go do some damage.
Yep.
So Nina's trying to calm him down a little bit, but then she tries trying to bond with the bride.
Yep.
Because the bride takes off out of the castle.
Uh-huh.
Because she goes to another mansion.
Nearby.
Yes, and Pat, what is so significant about this place?
Where she was, and I'm using air quotes here, born.
Yeah. So as she goes there, there's a passerby that catches wind and gets on the phone and calls a mysterious number.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to a yacht somewhere in the Pacific, we're assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a gentleman that is in the shadows and is very shocked to hear about a certain somebody coming back to this mansion.
It's like, hey, she's here.
Yeah. So it is revealed that this is the one and only Eric Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how episode 1 ends.
Yep.
Then we jump into episode 2, which is titled The Turlemagne Necklace.
Yes.
So this one, they start off in 1831.
Mm-hmm.
And you start going through that Frankenstein is telling his creator, Dr. Victor Frankenstein.
Am I the only one that whenever you hear that name, hears it in the version from Young Frankenstein?
Oh, I always do.
It's not Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Victor Frankenstein. Which, by the way, don't know if anybody caught this in the credits of this episode. Do you know who's voicing Dr. Victor Frankenstein? Peter fucking Serafinowicz, a.k.a. Darth fucking Maul from The Phantom Menace. Oh, my God.
Well, you know what? I'm not surprised at this because they really stacked this cast for animated voice acting. So
yeah, they
I'm
did.
I'm really not surprised at
Yeah.
this. So as we start seeing, Frankenstein is pushing to have a bride made for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Victor does.
Uh-huh.
And Victor starts bonding with the bride and starting to really show...
Trying to make me care for this character, especially with the backstory.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like
Quote unquote, raising her, teaching her.
Yeah, so Eric is not exactly too happy about this.
Making me feel all sorts of emotional.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing Gunn does with these characters.
Yeah, he does.
Is he really makes you pay attention to him and really care.
Very good with his character development.
Yeah, completely. So Eric is, like I say, Frankenstein is not happy that this is going down.
Yeah.
And, everything that Victor is trying to do, the bride is kind of, still fearful of Eric. Like, does not really want to do anything with him. Like I say, Eric's trying to do everything he can.
Yep.
So later, Victor presents the bride with the necklace, the Turlemagne necklace.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wind up falling in love and relations, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And who catches them?
Eric.
Yeah. Eric.
Awkward.
Yes. So what does he do? He winds up killing Victor.
Mm-hmm. Somebody call Maury Povich.
Yep. Causing the bride to go completely crazy.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Start whooping him.
Yeah. So when the fight goes down, the mansion is burned and the bride takes off.
Yep.
So during this time, Eric's trying to chase the bride and is just
one step ahead.
Yeah, it's just not going down no matter what.
Yep.
So they're setting up that backstory now because that's the whole reason the bride went back to the mansion to look for the necklace.
Uh-huh.
So they're really focused on that. But when they show up, they're attacked by Cersei.
Yep.
And of course, she's alerted because of the presence of the followers. They start battling.
Great fight.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
I will say the action sequence they're doing in this show is really good.
Yes.
So as they start going and, you're really seeing Cersei take out the bride, which, that was already a big statement to go down.
Which means Cersei's also a fucking Greek god.
Well, that's the one thing, too, we have to remember is, she completely overpowers one individual, even though it's the powerhouse of the team.
Yeah. So
you do see this ultimately happen. And then Nina in the background, though, is contacting Flag for help.
Uh-huh.
But she gets her helmet shot off.
Yep, which, it's not just shot off. It's shot through. It misses her head, but it shatters the glass around her head because she's this, fish-like, aquatic creature and needs water. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, there's nothing to hold said water in around her head to help her breathe, so she's suffocating. Meanwhile, the bride has gotten her ass absolutely kicked by Cersei, and the two of them are basically left for dead on the ground.
Yeah. So that is literally how that episode wraps up.
Yeah.
Is that the sons and Cersei have now captured Nina and the bride.
Yep.
Because the other characters really didn't have that much. There was the funny scene, if you will, about the princess and Flag hooking up.
But we saw that in episode 1.
Yeah. So
we get it. You love each other.
Yeah. So, they finally consummated there, and that's where the scene was going down, and G.I. Robot and company had to explain, it's going to be a little bit. So, don't mind what you hear. But all in all, that's how the two shows wrap up. So looking back on this, I thought they did a solid job for establishing it's not what you're expecting with the show.
Yeah.
It's very more mature than you would think.
Yeah.
they're flipping around a lot of character tropes, especially like I say, the Frankenstein one obviously is closer to what it is in the myth, but
right. And the second episode seems kind of like insignificant at this point, but I'm willing to bet this necklace is going to be the MacGuffin for the entire season.
Oh, I bet you.
They're like this is the thing they need to get before the end of the season to like resolve the whole issue.
Yeah, this is what's going to be to take out Cersei.
Yeah,
they've already tipped that hand.
Yeah,
like I agree with you. I think it's just too coincidental. But listen,
like right now, if it obviously we're only 2 episodes, it's the weakest episode of the season, which ain't saying much.
Yeah,
but I feel like much is the case with a lot of shows these days. It's insignificant now, but once you get to the end of the story and you now have the full picture in front of you, you're going to go, oh, now that makes more sense.
Yeah. But I think, though, they did a really solid job on this. Pat, final thoughts?
Yeah, no, they did a really good, solid job. It's the first step for a new universe that's being rebooted, again, after however many tries and attempts and what have you. So fans might be a little skeptical. Fans might be a little, not exactly chomping at the bit to see this universe and these characters redone again, but it's a good first step. It's a good introduction, and it's kind of like a soft step. It's not like a full run, but like, hey, it's a soft first step, and it's a good one.
It's a good first step. I thought they really did a solid job about establishing the characters, giving you some connection for them that you already have a couple favorites that you want to see win. And obviously in the dark context of what their job is, not everybody's going to survive. We already know this.
Right.
It's just a matter of who is not going to. But I thought for what Gunn and company did, they really gave a lot to work with. It's intriguing enough to stick around at least this far. And I think for anybody that was really skeptical about what we're going to get from this Gunn Safran universe, this is a solid first impression. It's not a home run, though. I want to stress that. It's good. Is it great? Debatable. But either way, it's something to watch on Max and HBO. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. Creature Commandos 1 and 2 from DC Studios Animation is out. What is your takes? You heard ours. Let's have that conversation, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, be sure to check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH Podcast Entertainment Edition. And we have to recap a big debut.
Yeah.
One that I will admit had a little skepticism with it.
Sure.
Because anytime you're talking Star Wars,
especially these days,
live action, and it's not involving Skywalker, Vader, or Leia, there is a little trepidation.
Uh-huh.
And the one thing is, this has been a mysterious show that we have been waiting for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Really had no idea what to expect.
Yep.
Other than we're talking the same time frame as The Mandalorian.
Yep.
And it's got a lot of buzz behind it because of its star, Jude Law.
Uh-huh.
Pad, what are we going to be talking about?
Season 1 of Skeleton Crew.
Yes. So the brand new addition to the Star Wars live-action family just hit Disney Plus with its 2 debut episodes. Episode 3 just dropped as we are recording, but we're saving that for next week.
Mm-hmm.
But feel free to hit me up on social media. I'll definitely talk with some people about that, before, obviously, since the show is out. But we are going to be recapping episodes 1 and 2 for this. Titled, This Could Be a Real Adventure and way out past the barrier. Much like segment number 1, we're going to go spoiler-free, give the countdown, then it's spoilers away. So, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on these 2 episodes.
This is a really good first 2 episodes. I wasn't sure quite what to expect with this, just because the only thing I've heard about this show and how it's been described and, I guess, pitched is it's Goonies in space.
Yeah.
And while, yes, I do enjoy Goonies, I wasn't quite sure how that would work with Star Wars. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, there's a bunch of kids with this. Obviously, we're not going to see Order 66 for like the 900th time. It's not going to be hot and heavy with, some sort of political message or like underlying moral thing, like the Umbara arc from Clone Wars. So like, what are we going to get with this? Is this perhaps maybe more geared and targeted towards, the YA, the young adult, or the kids? But that was not the case for me. Like the best description I saw of this is, I think it was somebody said season 1 of Stranger Things, but put it in space. You know, and I was like, okay, I haven't seen Stranger Things, but I do get like an 80s vibe to this show. You know, in certain aspects, certainly remind me of an 80s movie, E.T. in particular. But I enjoyed the hell out of the first 2 episodes.
You know, the thing about this is I thought it was off on a good foot.
Yeah.
And it did feel very dated and very retro. But this, we have to remember, I think they went back, like you alluded to, and I like how you brought it up, too, about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I think they went back to giving this a very 80s feel. Now, it is modern with CGI and such, so I don't think that's ruining anything.
Except for the one character. The one character is practical.
Right. But in this sense, though, I think this really works to give the Star Wars audience something different.
Yeah.
Now, did I think it was absolutely lights out like Mandalorian? No. Did I think it was off to a really slow start like Andor? Episode 1 I did.
Yeah.
Episode 2 was a lot.
I'll
Episode
agree
2
with
was yeah.
I'll agree with you there.
Episode 2 is a lot better.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was a lot of establishing characters.
Well, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting just because it's establishing when it takes place. It's kind of establishing kind of where it takes place. And there's a lot going on at this time. I mean, we've got there's an entire 12-issue comic series that, you know, we'll get to with recommendations, you know, that's going on at the same time. Plus, as you mentioned, Book of Boba Fett's going on during this time. You know, however many seasons of The Mandalorian are going on at this time. You know, you got the Ahsoka series going on at this time. Like, there's a lot going on, and it's just kind of like trying to establish its own place in its little corner of the galaxy.
Yeah, so it is something different, and like you touched upon, there's moving parts going all over the place here. But I thought for what they did, they gave you enough to be invested in.
There's enough of a mystery and intrigue to keep you wanting to watch to find out what's going on.
By episode 2, yes. Episode 1, not so much.
Oh, yeah, I'll agree.
Like, listen, that's not a spoiler. That's just the opinion there. But both are worth watching and then seeing where we go from here. So that being said, let's get into some spoiler talk. So, Pat, in 3, 2, 1, let's talk some Skeleton Crew.
I thought it was a really good first step forward. You know, I agree with you. It wasn't the smash hit that a Mandalorian was. And I'm like, oh my God, I need, you know, the next episode right now. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was a really good first step forward. I mean, let's face it, Star Wars the last couple of years has been extreme, especially the live action, has been extremely hit or miss. And in some people's opinions, more miss than hit. And I think for right now, it's a solid hit. You know, I'm not going to say it's a smash hit home run over the no doubter over the fence, but you know what? It's a solid double, I'll say. You know, it's a very good first step. It's got a lot of promise. It's got a lot of intrigue. I'm interested to see where this goes by the end of episode 2. You know, but for what it is, I really liked it.
Yeah, it was a situation where you are given a lot of creative freedom.
Yeah.
And I think they took some chances, and I think that they really didn't go super out of the playbook.
Right.
I think they did enough that it felt new, but it felt like I've seen this before too.
Yeah.
And I didn't, but I'm not meaning this in a bad sense.
Yeah.
It was just, we're not really reinventing the wheel.
We're taking what works and we're working with it.
Yeah. And I think that in this situation, that's not a bad thing.
No.
Because especially if you're tying this into the Mandalorian verse, if I can use that.
Sure.
You aren't going to break away from the formulas that have worked with the series.
Yeah.
The Acolyte was not part of that. The Acolyte was something completely different. And I think to win the audience back over, they played this very smart.
Yeah. It's almost got a nostalgic feel to it.
Yeah, like I say, they really hit the points of like the typical Star Wars themes.
Yeah.
So when you got into this episode and you really started getting invested with, let's just say the 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because the first one is just a lot of talking.
Sure.
And I understand you want to establish characters, but I don't necessarily know if they did enough to cement it.
Sure.
By episode 2, they did, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because episode 2, it ends on a very strong note. And
and
you're going, okay, now I get why we're here.
Yeah.
Because where they start out with, we're dealing with a Captain Silvo. And he leads a raid on a ship.
Piracy, real prevalent in this time period.
Yeah, so there's no real law in the galaxy.
Yep.
So when they go and raid the ship, they don't find anything. And
they took this, and it sounds like they took this kind of advice on a risk. They're like, hey, you should hit this ship. And they took it on the word of the captain, this Captain Silvo, and he's like, "Oh, no, don't worry about it, guys. There's gonna be a huge haul here. We're gonna be filthy rich off of this." If you've ever played Red Dead Redemption, it's Tahiti all over again.
Yeah.
But they get to the ship, and well, there's nothing there.
And what happens?
There's a mutiny.
Yeah. So there's no honor amongst thieves.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, when he gets to the ship and you don't find anything, like I say, everybody's turning on everybody.
Yeah, especially when you got a real tight window, because the thing with this time period is what's left of the Empire is fighting amongst themselves.
Yeah.
The Republic, the New Republic, or is a fledgling government that is just trying to hold shit together the best they can, while people are still fighting. So they can't exactly go and put out every fire at this point. So it's a real good opportunity for pirates.
Right. So as they get going, you start seeing that they're on the planet of At-Aten.
Mm-hmm.
And you do get introduced to a character known as Wim.
Yep.
Who is played by Ravi Kobe Conyers.
Mm-hmm.
And he is also teamed up with his friend Neil, who is the character that looks like a baby elephant.
Yeah.
And to a lesser degree, an elephant-like.
Not related to the same species as the band member in Jabba's palace.
Thank you, because I wanted to bring that up because I know
not the same alien.
Yeah.
Although I will say, not CGI.
No.
This is all practical for Neil.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, who Robert Timothy Smith is playing him. And yeah, I really thought that's where when you talk about the retro feel,
yeah,
that's where it had. Like it did not reek of CGI with it.
And you want to talk retro feel, we meet these two characters, they're at their home, they're getting ready to go to school, and they're playing on the side of the street. I said this to our friend Off the Cuff Tom. After we did the interview last week with Greg Weisman for Gargoyles, which that video, Nerd Initiative YouTube. Did the neighborhood in this scene not remind you of the neighborhood from E.T.?
Yeah.
Because I'm watching this going, holy shit, it looks like now it's not a 1-to-1.
Right, no.
But they did enough that I'm like, I feel like I'm looking at the neighborhood from E.T.
Oh, yeah, it's the same retro vibes.
Yeah.
No, completely. Like, that's where I say that this was like a perfect 80s movie.
Yeah.
So as you're seeing how this is playing out, because you see Wim and Neil are getting ready for their aptitude exams,
which determine their entire future. It's that stuff you hear as a kid, like, oh, you gotta pass this test because it's gonna determine your entire life.
Yeah, even though Wim is saying he wishes his dream job was being a Jedi.
Yeah, the teacher asks, "Oh, what would you like to be when you grow up?" And he goes, "Oh, I want to be a Jedi."
Yeah,
and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah. So even though Neil is trying to say, like,
that's not possible.
Yeah, you might want to find something else to do as a career, Wim is not hearing it.
Uh-huh.
All the while, we get introduced to two other characters, KB, who's played by Kiriana Katner.
Uh-huh.
And we do get Fern, who's played by Ryan Kira Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
So they are also classmates here. And, like I say, you see a lot of back and forth with them.
Yep.
And especially when they're kind of messing around town. Because it's just it's almost like kids in the summertime, even though it's not.
Yeah.
So when they're just trying to find something to do, they wind up following Wim,
yep,
who goes and thinks he's found a Jedi temple.
Yeah.
Off the side of the hill he's on because his bike falls into a ditch. Well, he does not exactly find the temple he is looking for. No. So he is found, though, by somebody.
Yeah.
And what does that somebody do, Pat?
It's a droid who takes him. It's the droid who takes him to school, and then he's admonished by his father, who's not real thrilled.
Yeah, his dad is not exactly happy.
A little bit of a workaholic.
Yeah, and basically is telling him you have a curve and you're not even close.
Well, he's got to he's got to take the makeup exam because he missed the exam.
Tunde Adebimple, who plays Wendell, really did a great job with this. And like you say, he's being the stern parent.
That's just trying to do his best.
Yeah, that's trying to really make a connection there and say, like, you really have to pass this.
Yeah.
But Wim is still not hearing this.
Uh-huh.
Wim is sold on the idea of this is like my destiny. I'm going to be a Jedi.
Well, and we can tell he's obsessed with Jedi because he's got that storybook that's telling stories of the Jedi. If you're curious what that book says, the Star Wars Explained YouTube page did the entire translation of everything that book says. So if you're curious what it says, go watch that video.
Yeah, so this is where actually Fern and KB catch up with him because they overhear him talking.
Yep.
So they follow him at this point too. Because like I say, it was kind of a little confusing at first.
Yeah.
But now they follow him. They go into the ship. And they, like I say, the entire hatch, supposed to be the gateway to the Jedi Temple, is now a spaceship.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, kids do what kids do.
They touch everything.
Yep. So they wind up activating and taking off. And Wendell can only watch as the ship flies away. So he knows something. See, the one thing that he tipped off about here is he knows something about that ship.
Yep.
You can't tell me otherwise.
Oh, absolutely.
He knows something.
He's either directly involved with it or he's been told about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how literally episode 1 ends of this.
Yep. It's a good ending.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solid ending for what it was. Let's say
It's like, oh, wow, we're already kicking into gear here.
yeah, I'm not spending a lot of time talking about it because it's just literally
Yeah.
a lot of kids
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
kids things.
Yeah.
But it's the 80s. It has that,
It's that 80s vibe. It's that 80s trope of like, oh, it's kids in a semi-small town with nothing to do. Hey, let's go exploring.
yeah, it was like literally, like I say, a Stranger Things in space, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, without a couple different parts in it.
Yeah.
But as they go back to episode 2 here,
Yep.
this is where things start getting interesting because on the ship, well, they meet a droid
Uh-huh.
who is a little past his prime, shall we say. And that's SM-33, who's voiced by who, Pad? Nick Frost.
Yeah, which fun little factoid about SM-33. A little bit of a nod, a little bit of an homage, if you will, to a certain character from the Peter Pan film. Smee.
Yes.
Flip the threes around. Smee.
Yeah. So, and it really kind of plays in the Peter Pan aspect, too, of the story, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because SM-33 doesn't realize that the captain is long gone.
Well, he's been unconscious, offline for God knows how long. And the thing we've often learned with droids, unlike humans, living creatures, they don't have a sense of time, when they go to sleep and then they wake up. To them, no time has passed. So they wake up. They think it's the exact same instant they got shut off. And they're like, hey, wait, where am I? What's going on?
Yeah. So at this point, Fern steps up and literally does the I'm the captain now.
She rolled a nat 20 on her skill check.
Yeah. So she winds up convincing him that she's the captain.
Yep. She did the full blown look at me.
Yep.
I'm the captain now.
Yep. So they wind up going to an outpost.
Yep.
Because what we're finding out is At-Aten is not on any map.
Well, and the issue is, for whatever reason, and this kind of bugged me to a certain degree, but I wasn't annoyed by it. They told SM-33, like, hey, take us back home. And he goes, okay, well, where is that? And none of them could name the planet. They're all like, well, we just left it. You notice that? Mm-hmm. None of them could say At-Aten. Like, for whatever reason, they're like, oh, yeah, just take us home. And he's like, well, I can't.
I want to say it's a Jedi mind trick.
Ooh, maybe.
And I think that maybe they were purposely lied to because as we dive further into the series, we start hearing more about the myth of At-Aten. Because as they're starting to go through, they crash at they crash the party at the outpost.
Yeah.
And of course, kids do what they do at this point. They split up.
Yep.
So Wim winds up using lunch money to buy some food at a vendor, shall we say. And then it's quickly discovered that, what he's paying with is extremely valuable. And the minute that he's talking with strangers, which, I'm still questioning Wendell about this, he tells everybody, oh, I'm from At-Aten.
Yeah, and they're like, well, you're from what now?
Yeah. So the majority people are laughing.
Yeah, they think he's just kidding.
Because why, Pad? What is the mystery about At-Aten at this point?
It is a lost planet that holds a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
Typical pirate, Treasure Island type stuff.
Yeah. However, though, there are some pirates that are saying
they're a little bit opportunistic.
Yeah.
A little bit, hey, why don't we take this kid at his word and see what happens?
Yeah. So at this point, they try taking the kids.
Yep.
And SM-33 now officially wins over the audience.
Yeah.
And literally goes guns blazing here.
Oh, yeah.
To deal with these pirates.
Yep.
However, though, he's taken down. And at this stage, too, Brutus, who we remember from episode 1, has all the children now captured.
Yep.
So while they're in this prison, they are talking to another stranger, shrouded in mystery. And during this talk, they find out that he apparently has some certain abilities. And what are those abilities, Pad?
Force-sensitive abilities. He can use the Force.
Yes.
Capital F.
Yes. So he winds up getting the keys to where they need to get out of.
Uh-huh.
And Wim, because now he's like, this is my destiny.
You're a Jedi. You can teach me.
Yeah. Basically says, hey, we're with you.
Yeah.
And you do see that this Jedi, who's now...
Presumably.
Yeah, that we're assuming, is a gentleman known as Jode Nawood, played by the one and only Jude Law.
Yep.
And he is sitting there going, well, you guys take me back to your ship. I'll help you get out, but you got to take me with you wherever you go.
Just want to point out, very easily, could be a Jedi, could be a good guy, could also be somebody who's not a Jedi, could also just be somebody who, hey, force sensitive and through trial and error learned how to use his powers.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility he could be a bad guy.
Yeah.
Because while, yes, the films, the rule of two, master apprentice, blah, 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 the things that have been established in the novels and comics and since, the original films came out, is there was more than just one set of dark side users in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's very possible he could be another dark side user.
Completely. So that's how it wraps up.
Never trust strangers, folks.
Yeah. So like I said,
Didn't your parents ever teach you anything?
I question the parenting.
I do too.
I mean, Adden, I think, is all clones.
Elmo would be very disappointed.
Yes, they would. But Pad, I mean, thoughts on this episode?
Good episode.
Or both, I should say.
Good first two episodes. The first one was solid and, just kind of setting everything up and doing a lot of the heavy lifting of like, okay, who's this? What's going on? What's the whole motivation? And episode 2 was where it really hooked me in, where they got to the outpost and they mentioned Atten and they're like, wait, what? And now it's the mystery of like, is there a treasure? Is it all real? Or did they just hallucinate the entire thing and it was all a fever dream, Just the mystery surrounding the planet and what it's going to lead to is kind of this sinking point for me of like, okay, I'm in to see where this goes because this is very interesting.
Yeah, I thought they had the very big 80s vibe going on with
Absolutely.
this. And like I say, the practical special effects were very good. I mean, they did have some CGI, sure. But
Oh, yeah. But I don't think they were using the CGI wall.
No.
Whatever's called that the Mandalorian uses.
No, definitely not. So I think they really were trying to do something very different here. I thought they did a good job with it. I am still sticking to my guns that they are the ones that eventually find Ahsoka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on their way back home to wherever home is,
right?
They're going to find Ahsoka on the way. Like they're going to crash on that planet, and then that's eventually how they get her off that planet.
Okay.
She was left at.
Okay.
So, but I think for what we got, it was a solid foundation. Was I blown away by it? No. It's very 80s in its themes. It's one that will remind you if you grew up in that era,
right?
Like I say, it fits that time frame,
right?
Just in the sense of just the typical Hollywood tropes,
sure,
that go along with this. So I'm not disappointed in it. I'm definitely in for it, and there'll be a lot more to come with this because obviously with episode 3 out now, 4 on the way next Tuesday, we will have a lot more to discuss with the series because this is only getting started, and they have a little window of time to go with. Too.
Yeah.
Because this is not a long series, 8 episodes.
Right.
And next week we're at the halfway point.
Yep.
So we have to keep that in mind that however they're getting from point A to point B, they're going to use some hyperspace.
And we don't know if it's going to get another season.
Right.
So who knows?
Yeah, this could be a one and done.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait to see how it all plays out. But in the meantime, though, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. Star Wars Skeleton Crew, currently out on Disney+, episodes 1 and 2. Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Couple things to talk about. First of which is some huge news regarding the MCU, and specifically a little bit of a casting news for Avengers Doomsday. And that is Chris Evans is returning to the MCU. And specifically Avengers Doomsday. Reading from an article on Deadline.com, the article says, quote, "At this point in time, the role isn't entirely clear, but sources say Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson character will also return as Captain America. Evans in the Captain America costume seems less likely. However, it wouldn't be a shock if he reprises Steve Rogers. Evans recently had a cameo in the highest-grossing R-rated movie of all time, the MCU's Deadpool and Wolverine, as his character from the Fox/Marvel early aughts days, which are also pre-Captain America, Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four movies. Evans' core Disney MCU canon character Steve Rogers was last seen in the Russo's Avengers Endgame, close quote. So, We got our Robert Downey Jr. back. We as Dr. Victor Von Doom. We got Chris Evans coming back as someone. Any guesses who he's going to play?
I think he is going to play Captain America.
Okay.
However, though,
Okay.
I think they're going to go one of two routes with this.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the internet is still not over Robert Downey Jr. coming back. He's not Iron Man. I'm still thinking Doom possesses him.
Okay.
So that's how we're going to do this, and then we'll see who the real Doom is. I mean, much like Batman Begins.
Sure.
So I think they're going to do something like that,
Sure.
a bait and switch.
Sure.
As for Chris Evans, they're going to either do one of two things. He's going to come back and take the mantle back, or split it like Sam and him have done in the comics before.
Sure.
Or he's going to come back and, I'm going to hate this if this happens.
Uh-huh.
He's going to come back as Hydra Cap, and it's going to be like Secret Empire.
Okay.
I really hope they don't do this.
See, I don't think it's any of those.
Oh, who do you think?
I'm thinking because what's the next Avengers film after Doomsday?
Secret Wars.
You remember the Secret Wars comic line and how a person comes down to Earth dressed and looking like Captain America, but you come to find out it's not? I think he's going to be the Beyonder.
I mean, that would be something.
That seems like yes, like you could do. He comes back, reprises the role, one last ride, whatever else. You could do Hydra Cap, which I know everyone's going with these days because it's the fun thing to do, and it was the big shocking moment from the last decade. I think the simple answer is just, hey, we're setting up for Secret Wars. He's the Beyonder.
I mean, I could definitely see that. I mean, because right now it's so wide open, we don't have a clear-cut path to how we're going to get to Secret Wars. I mean, unless they're going to do the Hickman version. That's the only thing I can say for certain. They're not going to take it back to the 80s and do that route.
Sure.
But we'll have to wait and see. But I think for him coming back, that's a big move. And it's not shocking, though.
Right.
Because the one thing the Avengers have to do is become the flagship of the MCU yet again. I mean, and I mean, this might sound like a weird statement, but hear me out.
Right.
I think the MCU has taken some hits over the past couple of years because you have to win over the pop culture audience.
Sure.
I don't know if they really had that magic because they really unloaded the heavy hitters. Now, granted, I have really liked the movies. I'm not hating on them. I'm not saying because you'll hear me every week say I want to push for new characters. I want to see something different.
Right.
I think the fact though that they want to go back, the fact they got Downey Jr. to come back speaks volumes. So I wasn't surprised Evans is coming back at all. Just in what role and how long term and X, Y, and Z. That's the big X factor because of how he was left off. But I could see him coming back either as just Steve Rogers, head of S.H.I.E.L.D. They've done that in the comics.
Yeah.
But I could see him suiting up one more time. Or like you said, the Beyonder thing's a great idea. Yeah. I could see all of that happening. I'm really hoping it's not Hydra Cap, though.
Next up is some morbid casting news, and this one fucking caught me by surprise.
Yeah, this one was crazy.
Caught everybody by surprise, and that is Jeremy Allen White. Yes, that Jeremy Allen White from The Bear is joining the Star Wars universe, and specifically The Mandalorian and Grogu. Who is he playing? Jabba the Hutt's son. Yes, folks, Jabba the Hutt does have a son. You might not know that because, well, he appeared in one film, and that would be the lowest grossing Star Wars film of all time, and that would be Star Wars The Clone Wars, the animated film that released in August of 2008. Only made $68 million worldwide. The next highest one would be Solo: A Star Wars Story, which made just over $393 million worldwide. So you might not have heard of it, but great film. You should go check it out on Disney Plus if you haven't seen it yet, and if you want to learn at least a little bit about who Jeremy Allen White is playing. But the article on Variety.com reads, quote, Jeremy Allen White has joined the Star Wars film The Mandalorian and Grogu as the voice of Jabba the Hutt's son, Rada the Hutt. Variety has confirmed. The project marks the first major franchise for the actor following his Emmy-winning breakout role on the FX series The Bear. Plot details have been hard to come by for The Mandalorian and Grogu, so White's casting as Jabba's son provides the first real glimpse for what could be in store for the titular bounty hunter and his adorably wee adopted son. Their Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, is set in the years following the events of 1983's Return of the Jedi, in which Princess Leia strangles Jabba to death. The recent spin-off series, The Book of Boba Fett, revealed that Jabba's absence left a power vacuum among the organized crime bosses on Tatooine. Two of Jabba's cousins made a play for his territory, only to be defeated by Boba Fett, who takes over instead. It seems likely that with Jabba's son somehow involved in the new film, Boba Fett and his deputy, Fennec Shand, could show up as well, close quote. So, super interesting news. I'm excited to see anything tying into the Clone Wars again. Just please, can we get Ahsoka on screen calling Rada stinky? If you know, you know. If you don't know, go watch the Clone Wars movie. You'll learn.
I mean, great casting.
Yeah.
He's great in everything he's in. So
Oh, yeah.
I am intrigued by this. I will say that because, I mean, they're really loading up this Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So
the other great thing with that Clone Wars movie, if you haven't seen it, because it's set in the Clone Wars, it's set, it's basically 2 episodes of the show, but they meshed it together to make a movie. It does feature Sam Jackson as Mace Windu. And it's not the voice actor from the series. And it does feature Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. So you get them reprising their roles one more time. So that's great to watch. Lastly, certainly not leastly, coming up tomorrow, actually, as we record, Thursday, December 12th, from 7:30 p.m. till roughly 11 p.m. Eastern, streaming online is going to be the Game Awards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, got a couple categories we're going to run through. Not going to run through them all, but just some notable ones. Specifically in the category of, this is the Player's Choice. This is the Player's Game of the Year. It's a 100% fan awarded vote. And currently, the voting is still going on. This is round 3. The nominees for this category are Black Myth Wukong, Genshin Impact, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. Now, the thing we should note with voting this year is they did make some changes to the rules and who can be nominated and who's can win. Previously, DLC and remakes were not allowed. Well, that was changed this year, deliberately so, I would say, in my opinion. So that's why the DLC for Elden Ring is available to be voted on in all these categories. Probably going to fan vote. It's either going to be Black Myth Wukong, because that one took over like wildfire when that game came out. And like the budget on the game was super low, and inside of a week they like doubled their budget.
Oh wow!
In terms of what they made back on it, so it's either going to be Black Myth Wukong or Elden Ring.
That's probably gonna be Elden Ring though.
Yep. Next up is most anticipated game. So this is the game in the next year, or next year that fans are most excited for. This is a real heavy hitter category, but I mean we all know which one's going to win it once I say it. So the nominees for this are Death Stranding 2 On the Beach.
There you go.
Ghost of Yotei. That is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, which I'm fucking excited for. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Monster Hunter Wilds. And Grand Theft Auto 6.
I still say it's Death Stranding, but it's probably GTA.
It's going to be GTA 6. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 5 over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Fans have been waiting on this forever. So it's probably going to be that one. Next up is the best adaptation category, and this is recognizing the outstanding creative work that faithfully and authentically adapts a video game to another entertainment medium. Nominees for this one are Arcane on Netflix, Fallout from Amazon MGM Studios, Knuckles from Paramount, Like a Dragon Yakuza from Amazon MGM Studios, and Tomb Raider The Legend of Lara Croft from Netflix. All great nominations. It's ultimately going to come down to Arcane or Fallout, and I don't know which one's going to win, because Fallout, big following, a lot of fan recognition, a lot of accolades. Arcane, equally popular, so we'll see what happens. I hope it's Fallout, but if it's Arcane, I would not be surprised.
I'm going to say it's Arcane.
Okay.
I mean, nothing against Fallout. Fallout is great,
Sure.
But I think Arcane came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, like, as far as you talk about crossover appeal,
Yeah.
I think it got more of the pop culture audience paying attention.
I would say so. There's a lot more people that watch Arcane than I would have figured.
Yeah, that's why I mean.
Next up is the best community support category, and this is recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates and patches. Your nominees: Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. Now, I know No Man's Sky has won it in the past, because if you don't know the story of this game, I'm not going to go into it. There's plenty of videos on this. Game came out in 2016. I've owned the game for my PlayStation 4. I loved the hell out of the game even when it came out, just because it was super chill and relaxed. However, though, the fan response was not that great. But the team didn't give up on it. They didn't shelve it. They didn't discontinue support for it, much like they're doing for the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. Yeah, that game's getting no longer supported in a couple of weeks here. No, they kept at it. They kept plugging away. And actually, as of recently, the reviews on Steam went from mostly negative to mixed to mostly positive. So hey, kudos to those folks for sticking with it. But it's probably going to be Helldivers too. That game took over like wildfire when it came out. Everybody was playing it. Everyone was loving it. And it's some of the most unique response to fans and community I've ever seen, because they would come up with these in-game things which are like, hey, go do either this task or that task. You can only pick one. You can only succeed with one. And it was one of those weird, like, actual life instances where, like, okay, you go take care of this thing, but there's repercussions for this other one you didn't choose and you didn't save. It's wild to see. So it's probably going to be Helldivers too.
See, I go Fortnite, just be different.
Yeah. Next up is Best Ongoing Game. The nominees for this are Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2.
I'll say Destiny.
It could be Destiny. That one, God, surprised it's still going. Probably Helldivers 2, just because a lot of fans with that one. Next up is Best Performance. The nominees for this are Brianna White in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell in Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts from Silent Hill 2, and Melina Juergens from Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This one, probably Brianna White, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's a lot of fans love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Next up is Best Score in Music, and you've got Astrobot, one of the nominees. The other ones, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Refantasio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Probably, for me, in my opinion, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Say, that would make more sense.
Great soundtrack for that game. And lastly, certainly not leastly, Game of the Year. Your nominees, Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantasio. Listen, I would love it if Astrobot wins it, because he seems to be the new mascot for PlayStation these days, which, hey, I'm all right with. Mm-hmm. I would also love to see Final Fantasy VII Rebirth get it, because, hey, it's a great game. It's a great remake. It's everything. Would also love to see Black Myth Wukong get it, because that game was wild. Listen, I'm not a Elden Ring, I'm not a Dark Souls type fan, but it was fun to watch it play. It was definitely unique. But let's face it, they changed the rules this year and added the DLC, and remakes were available for playing, for voting. It's got to be Elden Ring.
Yeah, I was going to say Elden.
It's going to be Elden Ring.
Elden Ring makes the most sense.
But yeah, voting is still open on all of these categories. If you want to go vote on any of these categories or some of the other ones I didn't mention, because there's a whole bunch of categories that are available to vote on. Even getting down to like specific categories like best sports game, best RPG, best action game, best shooting game. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. You go to thegameawards.com where you can find more about what's going on. Like I said, it's streaming on December 12th.
So yeah, we'll definitely have to be talking about that next week. But
also going to be a ton of game trailers debuting. I know Borderlands 4 is getting a game trailer that drops during that, so be on the lookout.
I wonder if we're getting the Marvel game for Wolverine.
Oh, maybe from Insomniac. Yeah, that would make sense.
It's been a little quiet there,
yeah. Could be.
But one thing that's never quiet is New Comic Book Day.
Yeah, baby.
So let's close out this show and give you the picks that you need to go run to the shops for.
So this week from DC, I am picking up Action Comics issue number 1079 from Mark Waid. And this one reads, Prison Break-In. Prison Break. In a last-ditch attempt to save both the Earth and the Phantom Zone from certain annihilation, Superman has been knocked for a loop and is only just now regaining consciousness. But what's that in the distance? The tiny silhouettes of every single Phantom Zone prisoner freed and heading straight for him? Uh-oh. Plus, the true villain behind Supergirl's mission reveals himself. So, yeah, I mean, you get the Phantom Zone involved. You get every prisoner that's in the Phantom Zone, which there's a lot. It's going to be a wild read.
Yeah, so I say Mark Waid has been doing that weekly now, so we have to remember that.
Yeah. Then from the folks over at Marvel, you got Ultimate Universe 1 Year In, issue number 1 from Christopher Camp. And then also you've got a whole bunch of authors involved with this one. And this one reads, quote, the clock is ticking down to the Maker's arrival. Dennis Camp flips the narrative on the Ultimates and takes us inside the Maker's Council. The heroes of the Ultimate Universe aren't the only ones who have been preparing for the return of the Maker. And the clock is ticking down. This unique one-shot sets the stage for the second year of the Ultimate line and includes the debut of the Ultimates version of 2 major Marvel characters. I wonder who they could be.
I know who one is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you're at New York Comic Con, you know who the one is. So I'll leave it at that.
Yep, definitely going to be interesting to read that. Then, also from the fine folks at Marvel, you've got Phoenix issue number 6 from Stephanie Phillips. The cover on this alone should sell you on why you should read this. It's got Phoenix on there, lit aflame. Thanos is holding her. Looks like he might be siphoning off the power, but who knows? That's why you got to read it. And it does say hunted by Thanos. But this one reads, quote, "On the run among the stars, Jean Grey has been going toe-to-toe with some of the universe's toughest foes, but now a new threat is brutally asserting his dangerous reputation, none other than Thanos. And while she single-handedly battled back the Black Order, their nefarious progenitor and his mysterious connection to Jean's many galactic enemies is another story entirely. To have a hope of victory, Phoenix will need to reach out beyond the limits of her own powers and find allies to take a stand against the Mad Titan." Oh boy.
This whole series has been on point. Stephanie Phillips' take on Jean Grey has actually been is excelling any kind of expectations I had, and then some.
Agreed.
Especially being in space. And this is, like I say, every issue is a must read.
Then you got the 2 issues I reviewed for Nerd Initiative, which you should absolutely pick up at the comic shops this week. First of which is Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 63. Justina Ireland on the writing this week.
Okay.
Yep. Fantastic issue. And this one reads, "The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man continues. Spider-Man finds himself face-to-face with Kryos, scion of Krytorak.
Sidorak?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sidorak.
Okay.
Yeah. Cyros represents the inevitability of time and takes Spider-Man on a heartbreaking tour through Peter Parker's past and future in excruciating detail. How many deaths will Spider-Man spend trying to alter his past and save his future?" This one's a gut punch. I mean, if you're a longtime Spider-Man fan, you can probably guess which ones he's going to go through. But the ending of this issue is probably the most intriguing part, and I don't want to say why, because I think there's something big that could be coming with this and a certain character they show at the end. And all they say is, "I have to prepare."
See, okay, we'll talk about this off air.
Okay.
Now it makes a lot of sense about who's at the end of this book.
Okay.
Big time.
Okay.
Big time. Okay. We'll save it. That's why you should go buy the book, and then we'll talk about it online.
Then you've got Star Wars Battle of Jakku, Republic Under Siege, issue number 4 from Alex Segura. And this one reads, "A new Republic on the ropes. Lando and his allies defeated. Mon Mothma faces a painful loss. Luke Skywalker must defeat 2 of the galaxy's deadliest killers to reach his friends. Moff Adelhard plays a final card against the New Republic with shocking consequences." This one this series, Battle of Jakku, I had high hopes for. You're doing a 12-issue run. It's Alex Segura, and up to this point, it's been kind of hit or miss for me. More miss than hit. This one, though, holy hell, a couple of plot twists in this one. None of which I saw coming, just because I had some expectations. This one flipped the script on it. But the ending of this one, and this one is issue. So this is issue 4 for the Republic Under Siege portion of the storyline. It's issue 8 overall. 4 more issues in this series, and this is a weekly series. So the next month, this series is going to be over. But where this goes next, I mean, we know where this series is ultimately going to be, and it's going to end up at the Battle of Jakku, which, if you don't know, spoiler alert, the rebels, the New Republic, beats the Empire, wins the Galactic Civil War, happily ever after, or at least until Force Awakens, and then that whole thing takes place. So we know where this is going to end up, but it's the finer details that we don't know. It's the, hey, what happens to these people and that people. Adelhard is a completely new character. Like, we don't know what his story is or what's going to happen to him. He's a Grand Moff. He doesn't exactly see eye to eye with the remaining members of the Empire hierarchy. Does he survive and go off on his own? And it's this lingering thing that we might see down the road. Yeah, maybe. Is he going to die and, ripple effects from that? Maybe. We'll find out.
Yeah, no, this series has definitely been making a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's monumental in the Star Wars community. So
this is true.
What else can you say about that? For me this week, a loaded lineup. Man, that's a great thing about comics. I know I always say that, but it's so true, though. Batman Dark Patterns #1 DC Comics. Now, they're doing this 12-issue series. And each case, because they're going to focus on 4 cases,
okay,
highlighting his detective skills in his early years. And this one is by Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman.
Ooh.
And this is a very cool story. It's more of like the horror aspect, but it's fantastic. Great first issue. So you definitely want to go check that out at the shops. I think a lot of people are going to be hearing about this word of mouth, so you definitely want to go pick this up if it's not on your radar just yet. Also, Marvel Comics is currently in the midst of its Raid on Grey Malkin crossover event involving the 2 X-Men titles. So this is X-Men number 7, Gail Simone, David Marquez with Edgar Salazar on art duties as well. So it's split up there. So if you've been waiting for the showdown between the Rogue Louisiana X-Men, as I guess they're getting called, and Cyclops' hit squad from Alaska, because that's what I call them.
Okay.
This one lives up to the billing. It means it's kind of very similar to what you would expect. And where they're going with this, it's still got 2 more issues left. So I'm kind of curious to see how this all plays out. I'm expecting hopefully something big by the end of it when we get there. Also from Marvel, one of my favorite X titles out right now, Storm number 3, Muriwa Eldeli and Lucas Wenrick. So this is a fan. Like if you are not a Storm fan, the series will make you a Storm fan.
Okay.
And if you are, you're going to just be completely amazed by this. Because what has happened here, I mean, quick synopsis of issues 1 and 2, but they've been out long enough. Storm stops a power plant explosion that's caused by a mutant.
Okay.
She gets radiation poisoning.
Oh, shit.
So she's dying, and
Okay.
she's doing everything in her powers to, find a cure.
Okay.
She has to go to Brother Voodoo.
Oh, boy.
So there's a magic element involved. So the deal is for her treatment, she's powerless. So, I mean, that's the only spoiler I'm going to get. So there's like a time frame she can't use her powers. So she does run into some old friends, and the cover gives it away. She bumps into Rogue and the Louisiana X-Men. And what Adele and Wenrick do here is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of the old school X vibes of like the team and camaraderie and the family aspect that we haven't really seen.
Right.
I mean, in quite some time, to be honest with you. Like I say, coming out of the Krakoan era, which that's a whole different vibe and energy itself.
Yeah.
To see what they do here, and plus what I love that Adele does, he goes back to a plot that never got full closure. And I marked out when I saw this. I was like, oh, where are we going with this? And I usually don't do that, but that's how good this book has been. And where they wind up going for issue number 4, like where the lead-in is, it's amazing. So definitely go check this out. If you haven't been picking this up, you need to go get it. There's a lot of amazing things happening here. Speaking of amazing books, Transformers number 15, Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona, and this is picking up right after the 2-issue Starscream Origin. So things are not looking good for the Autobots in any way, shape, or form.
Uh-oh.
I'm just showing Pad the cover right now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So if you know your Transformers, you know who that is.
Yeah.
And things are not looking good, and I'll just leave it at that. So a lot of great things happening. Transformers is always a solid read no matter what. Daniel Warren Johnson has only got about another year's worth of books left, I believe.
Wow.
Allegedly, he's jumping out at 24. That's what he posted on...
He's jumping to do Beast Wars.
I'm not sure what he's planning on doing, but wherever he's doing it, I mean, he's a superstar. So
Guy can dream.
He can do whatever. He might. Speaking of dreams and doing amazing things, we have Green Lantern number 18. So what Jeremy Adams has been doing, and I'm going to put this out in the world karma-wise.
Okay.
We need to talk to Jeremy Adams, whether it's Turn a Page or on ODPH in the upcoming year.
Okay.
He did this monumental event in the Green Lantern universe called the Green Lantern Civil Course. And this is the payoff event. If you've been reading since they did the restart after the Grant Morrison series, like there's a lot of things that have changed in the world of Hal Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
This has been the culmination of all of this. And this is like, if you are into Green Lantern, you're going to be on your feet for this. Like this was that damn good. I was sitting there, and I've only started getting back into Green Lantern. I'm fully up to speed now, and this is a huge payoff issue. I love everything about this. So like it's just a big bucket of wins. So if you're looking for a good reason to get back into Green Lantern. This is a perfect one to get into. I definitely would jump in at the start of this crossover and then how things end up to, oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Last but certainly not least, from Joshua Williamson, it's Superwoman special number 1.
Okay.
So now, have you been reading, and I know, Pat, you've been reading this, his current Superman adjective-less title.
Yep.
And coming out of the events of Absolute Power, Lois Lane has the powers of the Son of Krypton.
Again.
Yes.
Not the first time.
Not the first time, but this seems, a little more, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So this issue is devoted to how she's dealing with this and the origin of that whole scenario and what goes on.
Okay.
It's a very cool one-shot. And if you're really into like what he's been doing, and that means Williamson, with this line, and especially now with the take he did with Doomsday,
Right.
this is a great companion piece. And like I say, it's a lot of stuff to win about this, and especially if you're really trying to find that Superman and Lois vibe because the show is over, and give you something to get amped up for the movie coming out next year. Whatever Joshua Williamson's writing for this is definitely in that conversation. So you definitely want to go check that out. And if you want more recommendations, nerdinitiative.com. The reviews have been dropping since 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they're going all day. And if you need great picks, that's the best place to go because nobody's doing a new comic day like the Nerd Initiative bullpen. Nobody. That said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week in entertainment. So for the one only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.